I'm here at Long Island Doctor Who, and I'm talking to Doctor Who writing legend Terrance Dicks. First question is, how did you get into writing for TV, and how did you get the job on Doctor Who?
Well, I got into TV through some help from a friend who was already a scriptwriter and was sort of my mentor in the business, Malcolm Holt. And I got a job on a soap opera called Crossroads, which was a soap opera at the time. And also working on that was a guy called Derek Sherwin. And he left to get, and we got to know each other, become friends on that. He left and became script editor of Doctor Who. And then he was offered a better job, in his terms, and he wanted to get off Doctor Who, but he couldn't get off until he found a replacement. And apparently he tried several people, all of whom failed disastrously, and in some desperation turned to me at the last minute. And I simply got a phone call one morning when I was sitting at home, trying to think of some work. And he said, how would you like to be script editor of Doctor Who? And I thought about it and said, well, how long? And he said, well, we give you a 3 months contract, he said, and then we'll see. So I thought, well, they'll fire me after 3 months, but that's 3 months regular BBC money, and so that would be no harm. So I said yes and took the job, and as I always say, there went the rest of my life. Here I am all those years later. Yeah.
That's right. Was there a story that you did that you wish you could go back and do something differently, or?
No, that's not a professional attitude. When you get the job, you do the best you can with it, and then you move on to the next one. No, I mean, there will be no use in thinking that, would it? It would be a waste of time and creative energy, because you can't go back and do it again. And all of them, I did the best job I could at the time, and that was it. We're all stuck with it.
That's right. Did you enjoy being the script editor on Doctor Who, and was it always a challenge to plan out a season?
Yeah, it was a challenge to, sorry?
The challenge to plan out the season, the full season.
Yes, it was always very difficult. I did enjoy it, and it was always a challenge. It's always very, very difficult. People don't realise how important scripts and a script editor's job is, because I went to a big BBC meeting where they were discussing, the problems they had and overspends and whatever. And the cause always was late scripts. That was the one thing. See, and what happens is TV is very tightly scheduled, and at a certain time the director joins the show. When he joins, he brings with him a vast entourage of highly paid people. So the production costs start. And if he hasn't got scripts or good scripts, he can't start work. So he hasn't got much time anyway. Right. And if you're late with scripts, you're cutting down that shortage even shorter. Barry Letts, who was my producer on Who, had been a director in his time, and earlier on he directed a Doctor Who called Enemy of the World, Patrick Troughton show some years back.
The one that they just found last year.
Yeah, that's right. And he said when he arrived, they gave him one script, and that wasn't any good. And that's the kind of situation you try and avoid. The job is to get in good scripts and get them in on time, and to start as early as you can, because writers are devious and unreliable. I speak as one myself, and I always used to say I knew all the excuses because I'd used them myself. But you've got to pick a good writer, work out a good idea with him, and then keep chasing him for delivery onto whatever your schedule is. You see, I would always insist that script, people say, well, I'll do all 6 and send them in, and I'd say, oh no, you won't. You'll do one at a time and you'll send me it as soon as you can, and when you get feedback on that, we'll commission the next one, So you have to really stay on top of it. It's a very difficult sort of job.
Do you have a particular story that you are proud of?
Again, I mean, one of them, for instance, in a backhanded kind of way, in a show called The War Games, which, and how that came about, it was when I was still assistant script editor, and Derek Sherwin, who then stayed on as script editor for a bit, came rushing into my office and said, "Terrance, we need a 10-part Doctor Who, you've got to write it, we need it, and we need it next week." And it was pretty much like that, it really was. So I called in Mac Holt, who was my friend and mentor, and we wrote it together, at a rate of about 1 or 2 scripts a week, you see. I came up with the idea of the war games, which is, kidnapping soldiers from different planets. You're familiar with the story, at different times. And because that gave you material to work on, as it were, to go on long enough. But I developed a sort of line on it at conventions like this. I would say, well, 10 parts is ridiculous for a Doctor Who, it's far too long, you see. And I say, well, it opens pretty well, you've got the First World War and a Roman chariot coming out of the mist, that's a good moment. It ends well with the trial of the Doctor and his exile to Earth. I say, in between, it's a lot of running up and down corridors and captures and escapes. You see.
Right.
When it came out recently on DVD, the Doctor Who magazine reviewed it, and the review started off, "Terrance has been talking rubbish about this show for years. It's a good show all the way through, every episode." So I was highly delighted with that. It was all done in a panic and in a rush, but we'd obviously managed better than I thought we had.
Did you know that Patrick Troughton was leaving?
Oh yeah.
When you wrote the
Not fairly soon on. Yes, we knew that it was Patrick's last show, and that he was going to be exiled to Earth. And as it turned out, exiled to Earth in the shape of John Pertwee.
So how did the Exile to Earth idea come about?
I think I would certainly have had something to do with it, because there's, what are you going to do with what are you going to do with Patrick? How are you going to end it? And you didn't, and so you needed obviously another regeneration. So the Time Lord, the Time Lords took control of it, and they exiled him to Earth and sentenced him to regeneration at the same time, as it were. So it was a neat way out of the problem, a neat solution.
Last question. What do you think of Peter Capaldi's Doctor?
I think he's very good. The Doctor got a bit too warm and cuddly over, as I say, Patrick Troughton had a dark side. John Pertwee, could be very sort of stern and serious. Even Tom could, on occasion, sort of rise to the occasion. And after that, they all got a bit cute and lovable, you see. And I like the idea of the Doctor is not human, he's alien, he doesn't look at things as we do. And they've very much gone for that with the Peter Capaldi version, which I think is very good.
Thank you for taking time to answer a few questions for me.
Not at all, my pleasure.